Okay, so here we're going to build a graph to represent our data from the first experiment where we looked at the effect of temperature on phagocytosis in Tetrahymena. In this table, I have three columns. So this is our control with no ink, and then um, phagocytosis at room temperature, and then phagocytosis at 4 degrees Celsius. And so hopefully for the no ink control, you don't see many vacuoles because there's no ink. So um, ideally, you should not be seeing any vacuoles, but for the other conditions, you will be seeing some vacuoles. And so we're going to first calculate the average number of vacuoles per cell. Um, and so we're just going to click on the cell where we want this number to go, and then on the function. And then here we're going to select average. And so you can check this range here. So B2 to B6. So these are these numbers right here. So this is correct. And if not, then you can actually click here on this arrow, and you can actually just select this range manually if you need to. Um, but in this case, it was actually correct automatically, and so this will go into this cell. So we just click OK, and obviously because there was no vacuoles for this control, the number here is 0. And now to calculate the average number of vacuoles for the other two conditions, if you see, if you put this plus here onto the dot in the corner of the cell, the white plus changes to black plus, and then this means you can just drag this across the table, and then that inserts the same calculation into the other columns. And now for standard deviation, the same thing. So function stdev.s is the standard deviation we want. Now we're going to select the numbers here. So you can click on this, and then here's the numbers. Yeah, so again, we're going to drag this across. And while this is still selected, right click and go to format cells because we're actually going to select this as number and leave only one number after the decimal point. This should be enough. Here we go. Now we are going to graph these averages. So we're going to insert and in the insert we're going to need a chart. So we're going to select these numbers that we are going to do bar graph, and then in the charts here we have these column chart. And you can look at different kinds of column chart. It will give you some examples. We just need a simple bar graph like this. So here we go. And you don't see a bar for this one because this is your no ink control. So there were no vacuoles there in my example. Um, so we're going to now click on this where you have these numbers. So we don't want these numbers. We actually want the names of the columns. So we're going to right click and we can do select data. And then here we can actually do this horizontal axis, edit label range. So we're going to select these labels. And now you can see we have these oops, and that wasn't right. So let's do this again. Select data, edit label range. These are the labels. Okay, so just gonna okay this. Now we have these labels there. We're going to need a title for these for the axis here. So here we're going to chart elements. And so notice this plus for chart elements is right here next to the table in the Windows version of this. But if you do have a Mac, then you also have this add chart elements right here, which gives you the same type of menu. So you can do it either here or you could do it here. So I'm just going to select Axis Titles. Um, and you can see that now we have these titles, so we can actually edit. So you can just type in here. So on the y-axis here, this is the average number of vacuoles per cell. Um, and on the x-axis here, this is incubation condition, or you can enter something similar to this. Doesn't have to be exactly this, but this is how it is. So you don't need this chart title because you're going to create your figure title right here below the figure in your worksheet. So this is going to be different. So delete this chart title. You don't need that there. And so now we have the bar graph. Now we need to add our standard deviation to this. So to do this, this will go under arrow bars. So you're going to click here on arrow bars, and you will see that Excel automatically adds some type of arrow bars. But these are not the arrow bars you want. So you want to actually go here, and you don't want this standard deviation here. This is not what you want because this is actually not the numbers that we calculated. We want to go to more options, and we actually don't want this standard deviation. We do not want this. This is again incorrect. So we're going to go to custom, and then we're going to specify value. Um, and so we're going to click here and now select these numbers for the range of cells where we have our standard deviations. So that's going to be both positive and negative are the same. And here we have our standard deviation bars. And so that this chart is now complete. So make sure that you um, don't forget to add the title under this graph, and you don't forget to add legend under this graph. And in the legend, make sure you describe what these arrow bars are, that they are representing standard deviation on this chart. Okay, and so this completes our graph. So now you can just click on this graph, and you can right click and you can copy this into so for example, you can have your worksheet here, and you can just probably open a new document. You can do a new Word document here, and you can paste this chart um, into the Word document. So there's some paste options. And you can just insert this, into here. And then here you're going to do some title. So this is going to be, your figure one, and then some title, and then here's going to be a legend. And yeah, so this completes it.